Now remember, on NDTV, we appreciate and understand that conflict is a difficult situation where one must be sober in our coverage, one must never exaggerate what may actually happen. But what has happened today, let us acknowledge right at the start, is unprecedented. The US has never struck inside Iran before. It has struck Iranian targets outside Iran, but today, for the first time, the United States has conducted very highly destructive airstrikes inside Iran. So the paradigm has completely changed. You will be hearing a question quite often: can this spiral into a World War III? Well, we don't know that for sure, but considering patterns, movements, doctrines, postures of the big superpowers on the ground at this time, here is a 20-step, non-exaggerated simulation of how what has happened today, courtesy President Trump, could very easily, should things actually escalate, lead to a worst case scenario. Let's begin. 20 steps. The first step, of course, is what the President of the United States has done. He has bombed Iran's Fordo, Natanz and Isfahan nuclear sites. Now, what could this trigger? Let's go on to step number 2 and see what happens. B-2 stealth bombers and sub-launched Tomahawks have been used. That is the first step of this nightmare simulation. Step 2 is that Iran responds with missile strikes. We've already seen that happening. It has happened in Israel so far, but the question is, will they attack also American targets in Syria, Iraq, etc.? US bases hit in Iraq, Syria, and elsewhere. Step number 3, Israel goes on a full war footing. This is again highly possible because of where things actually are. Let's keep moving this as quickly as possible. Conducts airstrikes on Iranian IRGC targets in Syria and Lebanon. Then we move to step 4, where you have the Hezbollah and Iraqi Shia militias launch massive rocket salvos into Israel. Rockets launched at Israeli cities and US embassies. Again, something that is clearly within the realm of possibilities. Step 5, the US reacts by getting its navy to engage Iranian fast attack boats in the Persian Gulf. This could be the next step. Boats engaged in the Strait of Hormuz. Oil prices globally explode, and that has its own effect. Then step number 6 is when Iran threatens to close the Hormuz Strait completely, and that will have a huge global impact because Saudi Arabia's oil infrastructure would then be targeted possibly by Iran. Then you have a situation where Russia condemns the US strike as illegal. Russia has stayed quiet all this while, so in this simulation, they move their missile defense assets into Syria, Iran, at Iran's invitation. This becomes dangerous now. Step number 8, China warns the US against further aggression. China has been quiet so far. They jump into the mix and issue a direct warning, begins a big military exercise in the Gulf of Oman and deploys warships. The Chinese already have warships in that area, as does the Indian Navy. Then comes step number 9, where Israel strikes deep into Iran's ballistic missile sites. They've already been doing that for quite a few days now. They start, but Iran retaliates with hundreds of missiles across the region. Do they have those missiles? We don't know, but they could be supplied in the interim. Now we come to the halfway mark of this nightmare scenario. The US and the UK announce a huge naval blockade of all Iranian ports. Whether it is Bandar Abbas, Chabahar, whatever it is, there's a blockade. Cyber attacks begin on Iran's grid and military network. So a global effort comes in to paralyze Iran as much as possible. Remember, Iran has Russia and China on their side. Iran begins launching ballistic missiles at the Dimona Nuclear Research Center in Israel. Israel, remember, is not a nuclear-armed country, but partial damage is reported at this nuclear center in Israel, according to this simulation. Then we move on to the next step. How does Iran respond to this? Russia provides S-400 cover to Iranian strategic sites because they are being attacked as well by Israel as well as the United States, and Russia basically jumps in to protect Iran by giving them S-400 air defense missile systems. Russian air assets are also deployed to protect Iran. Remember, this is an escalating simulation, purely theoretical, but something to think about. China ships high-tech drones and strike systems to Iran. China has only issued a threat so far. This would be its first direct action in this theater. Signs emergency strategic defense accord with Tehran. So the big handshake happens between China and Iran. Then step number 14, North Korea, if you've been wondering, could also come in, because this is a country which has its own weapons. It fires a ballistic missile into the Sea of Japan, watching all this chaos playing out in solidarity with the Iranian BRICS axis. Then you've got step 15, where the US ups the ante significantly. It deploys nuclear submarines to the Eastern Mediterranean and the Arabian Sea, which is actually ironic, because those submarines are already believed to be in the region. DEFCON 2 is declared. Now, DEFCON is a state of alertness where nuclear weapons may have to be used. Step number 16, Israel prepares for the doctrinal Samson option under threat of a multi-front missile attack and possible dirty bombs in its capital, which is Tel Aviv. The Samson option is the use of nuclear weapons in a limited strike in an extreme situation. Step number 17 in this theoretical, hypothetical scenario, India and Pakistan are drawn into escalating positions due to Iranian-backed elements operating very close to their borders. Remember, Iran has a 900-kilometer border with Pakistan, not very far from India as well. So whatever happens there affects India. Both countries escalate. Finally, step number 18, Russia and NATO forces clash in an aerial skirmish over the Black Sea. It's already happening in one sense with the Russia-Ukraine war, but during an Iran convoy escort is when that skirmish actually takes place. So things get really ugly at this point of time, triggering a global market crash. The United Nations Security Council collapses as Russia and China actually walk out from that scenario, and they issue nuclear warnings. This is the final step, viewer, of what I'm calling a nightmare simulation scenario of how things can actually reach a worst case scenario, where step number 20, the US detects strategic missile launches from Russia and China following a failed Israeli nuclear strike on Iran. Global nuclear war begins. All of this sounds very apocalyptic, and this is purely theoretical. It is only based on current patterns and escalatory signs. It is purely a simulation based on what experts believe are the postures of all these countries at this point of time. But it is something to think about, given how unprecedented today's attacks really are.